Hi, everyone. Um, I have what I want to say, and then I have all the things I've heard that is making me think very deeply, and now I don't know what to say. But I'll share something quickly. Before we were getting ready to come on stage, Ola was at the back there preparing, and he was dancing. And I thought, how can he be so calm, just about to get on stage and dancing? But now I know why. He was literally comparing us to the monkeys and thinking, oh, this guy's got it so wrong. And he was so much in his mood. But there was something I really picked up from everything you said. And that is, I myself have been really consuming news so much that I felt like I couldn't take it anymore. Because every headline reminds us that the systems that we rely on for humanity and for the planet we live in are all under pressure at the same time. And in that moment, something dangerous can happen, specifically in philanthropy. The pressure to appear ambitious can outweigh the willingness to get close to complexity. And that is what I really want to share with you today. Because the attack on democracy, the rise on far right governments, the climate impacts, the inequality with global financial systems, they are going to be there. And we can make progress, as Ola showed us. But the way we do that is not by philanthropy making caution appear like wisdom or staying away from risk and calling that strategy. So I think philanthropy has a language problem. These words, stewardship, strategic focus, they appear really mature, like really strong, very sensible. And we love it. This sector loves these words. And I believe that the true intention of these words were to help philanthropy to pursue global good, public good, the commons, with courage. But far too often, in moments like these words have literally become a way for philanthropy to stay in its comfort zone while feeling so good and so ambitious. And that is a problem. It's a problem because philanthropy calls itself the kind of capital that take risk, the kind of capital that can back bold ideas, new approaches, and do things that other forms of capital cannot do. Chart, path, new ways of doing things. So what happens when these words get in the way? When stewardship become a way of hiding from complexity and strategic focus become a way of breaking realities apart and picking the parts that make it easier for philanthropy to function, but make the work so difficult for people who wake up every day and live with those realities. And the irony is that in other parts of our life, we don't do that. If you, or whenever you have to travel to a new country for the first time for work, or your kids have to travel to a new place, the immediate instinct that comes to you is to find someone who has lived in that place before, who is still living there. You lay out all your questions. What should I be worried about? Where should they go? What should we pack? What should we be aware of? Because we know that there is a value and insights that we get from proximate relationships, being in a place, feeling it, experiencing it, that no amount of desk research on internet or chat GPT can prepare you for. You want to talk to someone. You want to hear what they have to say. You want them to guide you. So why is it that when it comes to literally planning, strategy, that would transform a whole community, all of a sudden in philanthropy, this instinct goes away, vanish, gone. The monkeys start getting better at that. And this is how I call it. Why is common sense good enough for when we travel, but not good enough for philanthropy? It's as simple as that. And we need to ask ourselves, The tension that philanthropy holds. What is philanthropy's relationship with power, trust, and control? These are life questions in all your jobs. And it's not because you don't have good intention. You do. You care deeply about the people you want to support. But your good intentions have to go through a system that is literally designed for control, that is designed for distance. And I think there are a few things that can really help shift philanthropy in this moment. Because this moment is an invitation, it's not a crisis. It is an invitation. It is an invitation to ask, what is our relationship with complexity? And how do we confront it? I'll share three things that I think can help us to get to that place. One of them is approaching lived experience as the strategy. And I know it's very difficult to do, but this is what it's going to take. I've spent time with communities around the world through some of the most difficult times, working with local governments, private sector, entrepreneurs, innovators, youth movement, community leaders, in moments where extreme weather events, whether it's Cyclone Idai in Mozambique or Typhoon Odette in the Philippines, where all possibilities are stripped away from the very notion of development, where the dreams of young people are taken away from them, and parents are waking up with anxiety anytime they hear the clouds and they hear the rains. But in those moments, what I've found out again and again and again is that the best system thinkers in that room are no other people than the communities. And the reason is simple. It's not because they have a better vocabulary to explain themselves. It is because they are literally forced to live with complexity. It is not by choice. They are forced to live through that complexity where all these issues, economy, loss of infrastructure, public health, education, income, are all under pressure in the same time, and they have to keep going. And that is what the lived experience teaches them. And they bring that to develop strategies that allow them not just to solve for climate, but to solve for a bunch of other things. And in Mombasa, I've seen this happen in real time. Youth movements, transport union, county governor's office, street hawkers, and food vendors coming together to decide that they are going to uproot all the concrete in the streets and create green and cooling corridors so that they can have refuge during extreme heat in urban areas. It's as simple as that. Now, you can call that climate adaptation, but to them, it's not that. It is really a new form of governance that works for the people. It is livelihood protection for those who sell and work on the street. It is productivity and an opportunity for better income for them. This is what happens when lived experience become the strategy that get funded. The next thing I'll talk about is when I first heard about climate change. I heard about climate change in 2013, and immediately I started a student movement in response to that. The reason was simple. We wanted to approach climate change from how it showed up in our communities. And the way it showed up was coastal erosion, pollution, loss of agriculture, and attack on public health. Working across all these areas, not because we didn't have focus, because this is how the issue showed up. And then in 2015, while the world was signing its biggest climate deal ever, the Paris Agreement in Paris, my government was making plans to set up a coal-fired power plant, which would have been the first coal power plant in West Africa. Immediately, we were able to mobilize to stop that project from happening. The only reason why that was successful was because we were working with communities in a way that translated their needs into climate, not the other way around. Because the word climate change did not mean anything to them. But the way it showed up was through multiple aspects of their life. Up until that point, philanthropy had struggled to fund our work because their strategic portfolios and strategic focus could not make sense of a youth group that was working across 6 different topics at the same time. This is what happened when stewardship gets in the way of the architecture of change, where we cherry pick, where philanthropy pick and choose what makes it easier to fit into their strategy than following actually how the change happens on the ground. And I think that if there's any shift that philanthropy can do today that will make the biggest difference for the systems you're trying to change, it will be to follow the logic of the work, not the logic of your strategy or your portfolios. And we need to do this because we need to shift from funding fragments of solutions and to fund the ecosystem as a whole. And this is more particular in a continent like sub-Saharan Africa, where the issues are not necessarily single issues waiting to be solved. It's a complex web of cascading effects. Climate without jobs will make no sense. Education without energy will make no sense either. Good healthcare with poor governance is not going to cut it either. So we need to confront it that way. The last thing I'll talk about is the need to fund intermediaries that can hold complexity. Now, I say this as someone who really believes that intermediaries can really help advance all the issues I'm laying out. But of course, if done wrong, intermediaries can make the work even more difficult for the field. They can pass on all the complexities of reporting, all the difficulties with quantitative metrics. But if done right, intermediaries can help move funders from caution to trust. They can help get funders to understand the complexities that communities go through and help them fund the entire architecture of change. And this was the very reason why we started the Youth Climate Justice Fund. When we started, we made a conscious decision that we will make it possible for the youth movement itself to decide how resources flow, who get funded, who gets supported across all the issues they experience in their lived life. And through that, and by bringing them closer to power into decision making, in just 3 years, we've been able to fund about 120 groups in over 50 countries. And this is only possible because we are not deciding what strategy they should work with as a movement. And in December last year, we brought together 70 of our grantees in the Asia region, and they had a simple message. The best role intermediaries can play in this field is to ensure that complexities are not eroded and deleted to make it easy to defend their projects to funders, but to make it possible and to literally fight and defend complexity so funders can understand that. So as you enter and we start Philea Forum, I have a few set of questions for you because I know Euro Philanthropy really pride itself with values, seeking tangible impact, participation, and making sure that money is well invested in the right places. But as you do this, think about this. The real test of values is not any of those things. The real test of values are basically, what are your values trying to shift? Is it shifting who decides your strategy? Is it shaping whose knowledge counts as credible? And is it allowing you and your institution to open yourself up to absorb complexity alongside your partners? Because until we do that, we will keep funding in fragments. We'll keep using fancy words that make us look ambitious as a sector. And we will never see the change that we want to see within the field. If communities cannot join you in making those decisions, if their knowledge cannot count as credible, then the sector has failed. And we fail the planet and we fail the world. And we cannot do that because we can't afford it. Thank you.